Hi everyone, today I'm going to be teaching you about physical activity modifications for chronic conditions. So chronic conditions are long-term health conditions that may or may not have a cure. These types of conditions will be like arthritis, COPD, heart disease, and diabetes. The best thing you can do whenever you have a chronic condition is to typically find support groups or classes with people with similar conditions, as these will help you find ways to manage the condition significantly better. And then another thing that you can do with these chronic conditions is you want to increase your activities of daily living through exercise modifications. So the physical activity recommendations by the CDC is around 150 minutes of aerobic activity each week. They also recommend to add in muscle strengthening activities 2 times a week. So this equates to about 30 minutes a day, 5 days per week, with 2 days having strength exercises. They want you to have the aerobic activity, which is also cardio. That's how it's typically known. This just gets you breathing really hard and your heart beating really fast. And then for the muscle strengthening, you generally want the muscles to become tired through weighted or unweighted activity. So for starters, the aerobic activity modifications, there's a lot of different types of aerobic activity. So this can range from yard work to Zumba classes. The typical aerobic activity is like walking, running, biking, and swimming. So if you have a joint limitation, you generally want to use low impact exercises such as biking or swimming. These types of limitations usually are like arthritis and joint restrictions due to surgery. You can also include aerobic regulation. This is going to use like RPE and heart rate modifications that I'll get to later. And these types will usually be used for like heart disease, COPD, and asthma patients. So some strength activity modifications. There's blood flow restriction, which is where you actually tighten a band around your muscle very, very lightly, because the muscle actually will almost inflate whenever you start using it due to the blood flow and the blood flow drawing in water as well. So that band, whenever you put it on really light, it will eventually cause a little bit of restriction in the blood. This allows the muscle to work harder with less weight. We typically see these being used with like arthritis patients and muscle wasting patients, because it allows the person to still work the muscle significantly harder without using the joint nearly as much. You also have joint restrictions, such as like using a board on a bench press, or doing like a floor press instead of a regular dumbbell press. These are going to restrict movement past a certain point. You'll generally see these with like chronic joint patients and joint surgeries, where the person isn't able to use their full range of motion just yet. And then we also have bands. Bands are a really great tool to use, and a lot of people recommend them, so it's always good to have some. You can even get them even at like Walmart and like TJ Maxx. They allow for greater tension at the stronger joint angles. So as you stretch a band, it's going to become a lot stronger. So as you're like, say, pulling it down on a lat pull down machine, the band's going to be a lot stronger the further your arm is to your core. You'll typically see these used like chronic joint pain, joint surgeries, and then arthritis as well. So then we have program modifications. This is where we'll actually change the entire week of working out. So we will typically want to start adding in higher repetitions for achy joints like arthritis patients and patients with tendonitis. This is where we'll have like 40 plus reps for around 2 to 4 sets. Next, we have longer breaks, which are around like 2 to 3 minutes. We'll typically use these for like COPD, asthma, diabetes, and heart disease patients. It allows for roughly around 90% recovery between exercises, so that way we're not stressing out the cardiovascular system as much. Next, we have a number of set changes. This is typically based on the type of condition that you have. So with diabetes, you'll typically want like higher sets and lower reps to account for glycogen replenishment. but also still having that volume there of the amount of work you're actually doing. And then with arthritis patients, we'll typically want to have like lower sets, higher reps to aid in blood flow. And then the number of workouts you do per week is still based on the amount of availability and conditioning you have. So then lastly, we have workout regulation. This is what we'll typically use for like COPD, heart disease, and asthma patients, people that cannot stress their cardiovascular system nearly as much, and even people who are just starting out working out. You'll typically want to use this as well, so that way you can kind of judge how much you're actually doing. So with the rate of perceived exertion, or RPE, this allows for a self-judgment on the amount of effort you put into an exercise. Generally, there's a scale that you can look up that has an RPE, and it will also tell you how much you should be feeling based on that number on the exertion. So you'll have a lower number will typically be like walking around, while a higher number will be just after getting done with the run. You also have heart rate, which measures the amount of work being done at that given time. This is where you'll look at how much your heart is beating per the given time. So over like a minute, you'll have a certain beats per minute that you'll want to be hitting. Here are some references for y'all to look at, and then I'll cover some more in the fast fact sheet. Thank you.